Hello, everyone, and welcome to GoT Thrones, a Game of Thrones podcast. I'm Alexandra August.
I'm Johnny Kolosinski.
And welcome to Game of Thrones Superfight!
Yay, woohoo!
Woo! Superfight is our off-season content. If you're just tuning in now, we've been doing it for about 6 weeks. And if you are just tuning in now, it's a game similar to Cards Against Humanity or Apples to Apples. Pick a character, give them crazy attributes, you make them battle. We're just playing it with Game of Thrones characters.
Because it fits the theme of our podcast.
It was really convenient like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but first, before we get into that, there were a couple more photos released this week from Season 7. Entertainment Weekly broke them this morning, actually.
Yeah. The big one, obviously, is gigantic Drogon.
Mm-hmm.
He's huge. He's on fire, and there's fire in the background. Dany's on him, and there's people fighting. There
appear to be the thing that was obviously really, really exciting about this is that not only are there people fighting, they are Westerosi people fighting.
Yes.
The dragons have landed.
Mm-hmm.
We knew they would, but it is really, really exciting to now kind of have confirmation that we are going to get we're going to get Battle of the Bastards, but with dragons.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very excited about that.
So this is going to be a fun one. Dragons are big, y'all.
I don't know that he looks that much bigger than he did in Battle of the Bastards, which is the last time we saw him really, stretch his wings, for lack of a better word.
No, but this is the first time we've seen him in action this size.
Well,
I guess yeah. That's not true at all.
I guess maybe it's the first time we've gotten such a majestic shot of him.
Yeah.
A nice wide shot of him on the ground with lots of people there for scale. I mean, we kind of had one in season 6, or season 5.
Yeah, that's I guess what I meant.
The rescue episode, but yeah, he was certainly not that big then.
Yeah.
So.
But somebody's been eating his Wheaties.
Yeah. I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see the stakes raised, and I kind of feel like the only way you could do that after season 6 was just use a lot more dragons in Westeros, because now the storylines are finally meeting, and they're meeting in this big explosive way, and it's so exciting.
Do you think we'll see Meereen again at all, or is it just everything's fixed now? So
That's a good question. I mean, it feels like with everybody kind of lamenting the fact that we only get 2 more seasons and we only have 13 more episodes, it kind of feels like this is the last season when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So we have another season 8, and I agree with you. It does seem like Meereen is kind of finished, but the prevailing logic in Meereen is that Daenerys kept leaving it unattended, and while Daario is there, I don't have the utmost confidence in his leadership abilities, so it wouldn't strike me as crazy if we didn't hear of more unrest. But I also think it might be likely that in season 8, in the war, if my prediction is that the season 8 is going to mostly focus on the long night actually being fought kind of on the ground.
That this is going to be the War of Three Queens.
Yeah, maybe. Well, also too that that's Essos has legends of that as well, so maybe they'll be drawn back into it on if this battle kind of gets to a global kind of planetal scale in this world. Does that make sense? If it becomes a world war against the White Walkers, then I think we could see Essos and Meereen in that capacity. Yeah,
that makes sense.
I don't know that I really want to, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just everything in Meereen is gross, and everyone's really mean, but in a weird, I don't know. I'm more the Westeros involves more Starks when there's violence and grotesqueness, so there's something more heartwarming about it. There's something so anonymous about the terrible things that happen in Meereen, and because everyone there is fairly foreign, and our cultural reference is a woman from Westeros, and we don't really get to know the Meereenese people that well. Daenerys has her close cadre of people, but we're not really here for them. They're guest stars.
Yeah, above and beyond, our point of reference is a Westerosi. It is the fact that, with the exception of Barristan and Selmy, when somebody bites it, it is a guest star.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Lenny Mo Kravitz.
That's a good point.
So the stakes aren't there because there's someone who exists to die.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a red shirt, effectively.
Essentially, yeah.
Poor Lenny Kravitz. We should have warned him.
Yeah.
Wrote him a little scroll. Sent it on a radio. It's not looking good, son. We don't know what happens to you in the books, but you seem expendable from a television standpoint.
Yeah.
The other photo that's been causing a little bit of curiosity, though neither Johnny nor myself can really guess as to why, is the photo of Arya clearly at Winterfell.
Yeah. Where... or maybe she's leaving the twins. It's Arya on a horse.
It's Arya on a horse in front of a large wooden door that is flat. That appears to be the door to a stone structure, and the stone looks remarkably like the Greystone of Winterfell. Yeah. And Winterfell needed a new door last season because somebody broke it.
Yup. Stupid.
Oh god. 1-1 hashtag rest in peace.
Yeah.
So is there a place else? And also, too, the lighting just looks like that kind of crisp weather.
It looks wintry.
Yeah, it does, and it doesn't scream. The only other thing I thought was that it could be the end of the crossroads just now. But that place always seemed to have a much kind of more woodsy feel.
Hobbity.
Yeah. It seemed more like a cottage and not this kind of stone structure. That's not to say that they couldn't have just been like, we did the end of the crossroads in season 3. Nobody's seen it since. It's fine.
They've been doing well since Hot Pie took over.
This is true. God, oh my God. In one of the other photos, I think we discussed it in the first big round that they dropped. Arya was in some kind of hall seated in front of like a tray of pies or a tray of something. You can't totally tell they're pies. And I think it's more likely that she's in a great hall of a castle and not an inn because she's looking up at someone talking, it appears. But oh my God, there's 10% of me that's like really, really hoping that she's at the end of the crossroads and Hot Pie made her some pies.
Yeah. And then they get married.
Oh, I don't know about that. I want her to be with Gendry, as unlikely as that probably seems. They would be really cool together. I feel like she and Gendry that seems to give you great comfort, the fact that Arya could end up.
It does.
Are you
Arya
shipping?
Deserves. I didn't know I was, but apparently I am.
The best ships are like the ones that sneak up on you when you're like, oh my God. It took me until season 2 of Star Trek Voyager to start shipping Janeway and Chakotay, and that was like my OTP for several years.
And then, of course, speaking of ships, the other most important photos we see are one photo of Tormund looking longingly at something.
What's that?
And another photo of Gwendolyn Christie grinning.
Like the girly, like she's never looked this girlish on the show. She looks positively adorable. So it's clearly a set photo, and also there's like a bunch of like equipment in it as well.
Yeah,
so it's
I think it's her just having a good time on set as opposed to Brienne in character.
But in our headcanon.
In our headcanon, it's...
he just picked her up for a date.
Yeah. There's an off-camera wink that happened.
And
then there's Baelish and Sansa.
Yeah, the other photos, like there's Cersei and Jaime on set. Cersei's on the Iron Throne.
Yeah, it's a obvious shot of the production.
Yeah,
but we've seen this from another angle, literally.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I was a little bit like miffed at. Not miffed, but I guess kind of perplexed a little bit at the furor surrounding this, second batch of photos, because only 2 of them were really unique, I would say. The rest of them are, I guess, maybe, and there's Jon on a horse.
Jon on a horse with a scratch on his face.
Yeah, and he's in a courtyard and it's snowing, so it's also probably Winterfell.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other ones are, we saw a picture of Gwendolyn Christie and Tormund. We saw a picture of Sansa and Baelish in the same area where they are, and we saw the same picture of Cersei and Jaime, but now we're getting the production still of it, so it's... Yeah. But I think you and I should move to Superfight without... but I think we need to make a promise to a couple of fans that we will talk about the Star Trek trailer next week.
Yes. We will have the Star Trek trailer covered next week in depth.
Yes. Yes, we will.
And if we can't fit it, we'll just do a mini episode.
Yeah,
of the Star Trek trailer.
Yeah. I have to catch a flight, though, in about an hour and a half, so we're not going to do that this week. This week we're going to get right into Superfight, and this pairing has me just giddy.
We have Ned Stark versus the late and lamented Joffrey Baratheon.
This is the rivalry that I didn't know I wanted until you mentioned it, Johnny. And I just, oh man, I want Ned. Because you know Ned, and every single interaction he had with Joffrey, every single one he saw was just like, oh my god, if you were my kid, I would punch you in the throat.
If you weren't my best friend's kid.
And the anointed
surprise.
crown prince.
Yeah.
He just looks so, Ned's just poor, Joffrey's just the first in a long line of disappointments when it comes to Robert Baratheon for Ned Stark, so this is particularly sweet. And boy, I really just, Ned Stark could have whipped Joffrey into shape, or, just maybe given him a hug at some point.
Can you imagine, like, if Ned had been around for all of Joffrey, and, there wasn't the Cersei Jaime aspect looming over his head, would Joffrey have turned out different? Actually, no. Joffrey would not have turned out different, because what's wrong with that boy is on a deeper level.
Much, much, much deeper. Much deeper.
It's nature and not nurture because no one nurtured him.
Yeah, and we know it's nature because his parents are twins.
Yeah.
So, with that, let's get to our...
Tommen turned out great.
It depends.
Until he bounced.
Yeah, it depends until he committed suicide. So, let's now that we've
now I want to write 13 Reasons Why.
Oh my god.
Season 2.
Oh, that's 13 Reasons Why.
Angry letters to GoTHrones podcast at gmail.com.
We need to, I think that was pretty on point. I think that we should tweet 13 Reasons Why this marvelous idea, because they've just announced they're doing a season 2 and nobody thought they had material for one, and maybe they're scrambling, so you know what? I think we're going to give them a gift. But before that, I want to see what these cats are armed with. So what's Ned stowing, Johnny?
Well, Ned is armed with a live Tyrannosaurus Rex, and he throws fireballs.
Oh my god! I love that he's basically carrying a dragon head, but he's got the fireballs were sold separately. Yeah. I feel like this Tyrannosaurus Rex is going to be pretty effective, considering it's not burdened by its body and or tiny arms.
It's just the head of the T-Rex?
Yeah, it's armed with a live T-Rex head on a stick.
Oh, okay. I missed half of that.
It reminds it reminds me of the little dudes in the labyrinth when when Sarah discovers Ludo and he's hung upside down and he's surrounded by these goblins with little tiny goblins on sticks, and they're beating Ludo with the tiny goblins on sticks, and the tiny goblins bite Ludo. It's just terrible. It's really, really sad. That's what I imagine this T-Rex kind of to be, but on a bigger scale.
But yeah, bigger stick.
Yeah. This is so. What does Joffrey have?
Joffrey shoots laughing gas and can take the form of anything he touches.
Oh, I feel like this already looks pretty. The odds are already leaning in favor of Ned, but I feel like when we unpack this, the laughing gas and the form of anything he touches is going to prove to have closet attributes, like sleeper attributes or sleeper advantages.
Potentially.
Now,
is this happening at King's Landing or Winterfell?
In my mind, I'm seeing this in the Godswood at Winterfell.
Okay, we are both on the same page for that one.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful.
And so he pulls out ice, says, "No, this is not the time for ice."
And drops ice on the ground.
Drops ice on the ground and grabs his live T-Rex head on a stick
from behind a weirwood tree. I'm going to say that Joffrey was there maybe peeing in the pool or something, and it was just the last straw.
I think he was peeing on the tree.
Peeing into the tree's mouth, peeing in the weirwood tree's mouth.
Yeah.
That seems like an appropriately Joffrey thing to do. And Ned comes upon him, and it's just 8 shades of, oh, hell to the no.
Mm-hmm.
Grabs the T-Rex.
He's 8 shades of Sean Bean.
Really, really angry Sean Bean, not really tormented Sean Bean.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Bean Bond villain.
Yeah, not Sean Bean Boromir.
No. I think Joffrey would beat Boromir in one of these fights. But that's a battle for another day.
Yes.
So Joffrey's
We
caught.
should do a Superfight game of all the different Sean Bean characters.
Oh my god, that's a really good idea. Write that down. So Ned whips out the Tyrannosaurus. Ned whips out ice, drops it on the ground. Twist pulls out the Tyrannosaurus Rex head, and I think I'm gonna guess. I feel like he saves the fireballs for later, so maybe that's a surprise too. So Joffrey's immediately terrified because he's a coward, and I think he maybe like pulls out his I'm gonna say he's got a laughing gas gun, pulls it out and fumbles it a little.
I can see that.
I think that at this point it's just Ned they're stalking each other around the pond. The T-Rex head, and Joffrey's like terrified, holding on to the laughing gas.
Yeah, Ned faints with the with the T-Rex once, and Joffrey does this semi-matrixy lean back.
But Joffrey also does like, ah!
Yeah.
It's pretty high voice.
This fight's going to end. There's going to be a lot of Joffrey screaming like a girl in this fight.
Yeah, there's going to be, oh man, that's a really great mental image right now. So I think Joffrey at this point just starts firing the gas. He knows that this is his best weapon.
Here's the thing. I don't know that Ned Stark is affected by laughing gas.
You don't know that Ned Stark can laugh?
Yeah, I think he's spent years developing an immunity to humor.
He is Jon Snow's father, and Jon Snow is definitely immune to laughing gas. Or rather, he's Jon Snow's uncle. Is just... Pardon me.
Yeah. Jon Snow's Funkle. He's the other kind of Uncle Dad.
No. Jon Snow's Funkle was Benjen. Let's get that straight. Funkle Kevin and Funkle Benjen. Funkle Cold Hands.
Yeah.
So, I think maybe Ned is not affected much by the laughing gas because he's moving so much, and I don't know how steady a stream, but I think the T-Rex is affected by the laughing gas.
Okay, I'll give you that.
I think the T-Rex just starts like going, and then, but it's a T-Rex head, and so when he laughs, it convulses the stick, and now he's not effective anymore because he keeps. Yeah. Now the stick is wagging the Ned. I think at this point Ned has to drop. Joffrey thinks he's got an advantage, so he starts bragging. That seems pretty Joffrey-esque.
Yep.
And at this point, I think it's time for Ned to whip out one of those fireballs.
Absolutely.
I'm envisioning him giving like a really good sort of like cartoonish Despicable Me, like a Despicable Me type pose, like Nefarious, where he's like got one leg jutted out, and all of a sudden with a lot of flair he whips his hand out from behind his back and a fireball appears in his hand, like with panache.
See, I was just picturing more the enchanter from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and it just pulling it out and tossing it.
I'm not mad at that either.
Yeah, less panache, more get job done.
Yeah, I'm projecting panache onto Ned Stark because that's what I want him to have. Yeah. But he's not a panacheful guy.
No, not especially.
I just need
now, I do think that he is a respectful guy, which means that the fireballs are not the advantage that they could be. Because he's in the Godswood after all.
This is true. So he's got to be delicate about this because he is in a lot of trouble if he burns down a werewood.
Yeah.
It would be like,
oh no, I killed Bran in the future. And which means he's got to maneuver Joffrey into somewhere where he can make that fireball work.
And see, here's the thing. What I think Joffrey does now is he sees the fireball and he realizes his laughing gas is useless. He's not strong enough to pick up the T-Rex head, so I think at this point, given that he can become anything he touches, he jumps in the pond.
Okay. I was thinking he'd touch a weirwood, but he doesn't know how awesome weirwoods are.
Well, also, weirwoods, it's wood. He's vulnerable. I mean, I feel like Ned would kill I think Ned would kill the Joffrey weirwood. He knows that's not a real weirwood. That's just a terrible, terrible imitation.
Maybe that's where weirwoods come from.
From this ability?
Monarch.
Polymorph monarch.
Yeah.
I think we've reached. I
Season
disagree.
7. George isn't writing anymore. Anything goes.
I gotta say, Johnny, I know this is Superfight, but I think you might be reaching.
Okay. I've hit the line of credulity
Yeah.
of word I only.
I can suspend my disbelief for the laughing gas T-Rex head, but I am sorry, my friend. I cannot suspend my disbelief that Ned would not. That is where werewolves come from.
That Ned wouldn't burn Joffrey as a tree.
That Ned wouldn't be like, oh, that was so much easier. Yes. I think Ned would maybe have a little bit of pause, but yeah, I guess
for the
maybe
greater
the question
good.
is, I don't know that Ned wants to kill Joffrey. Maybe just he wants
Late stage Joffrey, yes. Joffrey before Ned dies, no.
I think that werewolf thing was pretty offensive, so I think maybe the T-Rex is a scare tactic and so are the fireballs. But I think Joffrey is now playing to win.
Yeah.
Because Joffrey... I think Joffrey is just stupid enough to kill Ned, because Joffrey was stupid enough to kill Ned.
Yeah. It's not that Joffrey is
did that IRL.
playing to win so much. Joffrey doesn't know there's any other way to play.
Aw, that's such a nice thing to say. Poor Joffrey. Oh, I feel like he's like the Lindsay Lohan of Game of Thrones. Just really didn't ever stand a chance with his parents and his upbringing.
Yeah,
just
and his
too
upbringing.
Much. Too much. So, all right. Well, let's. But I will say, with Joffrey in the water and Ned with a fireball in his hand, I think we're at an impasse.
I think so too.
I think it's time to level up.
Yeah. Although I don't know how much we're really leveling up here because Ned is armed with a kitten cannon.
Ned is all of a sudden armed with a kitten cannon, which pleases Tommen greatly. Tommen wants one of these so bad.
I think Tommen provided this. I think it's a kitten cannon, and the secret weapon is that it's loaded with Sir Pounce, who hates Joffrey.
Oh, that's
I'm giving
so
a lot more thought to this than I thought.
That's diabolical, Tommen! Now he's a cartoon villain too, and he's like doing the really exaggerated sneaks like Elmer Fudd does when he's hunting. He's like sneaking up and he hands Ned the kitten cannon and then like goes
the
scurries
Acme
away.
brand kitten cannon.
Yes, and he's this cherubic little cartoon. He hops up in a werewolf tree to watch his brother die. You know, it's real sweet. Joffrey, if you'll recall, shoots laughing gas, can take the form of anything he touches, and is now a piñata.
I think that's almost poetic.
How so?
Given that Ned's head ends up on a stick.
Oh, you're right. Now, I'm not banking that Ned's ever seen a piñata before, so he doesn't know that you are supposed to beat the shit out of it.
But he has seen Joffrey before.
I think he thinks it looks like some kind of false idol or something. I think he probably thinks it looks pretty demonic, and that's my motivation for him maybe being scared enough to accidentally shoot a cat at it.
Yeah. I don't know that I don't know that the kitten cannon comes into play except for the fact that we think it's amazing. I think he just sees paper Joffrey and burns it.
Oh, I guess, yeah, you can still throw fireballs. I don't know, I really like the idea of Ned actually, like, kind of being like, what the hell? And all of a sudden, like, thonk. And the cat just hits the piñata and the piñata falls over. Because Ned's never handled a kitten cannon before. It's conceivable that he didn't know the safety was off. So now there's just this piñata. There's this like beautiful tableau of a sad Ned holding the kitten cannon, a fallen piñata, and Sir Pounce kind of dazed and looking around. You know what? Something just came to me. I think Ned is an honorable guy, and I think at the end of the day, Joffrey is a child. So I know that he can kill Joffrey, but I think instead he just chooses to adopt the piñata into the Stark clan, much like he did with Jon Snow. And Joffrey just like sits on the mantle, and they like pat his head every once in a while.
Yeah.
And occasionally like Arya will like shoot peas at him or something, but all in all, his parents don't really want him back, so
yeah, nobody really wants him back. And eventually there's an accident and Needle ends up in the piñata.
And then everyone discovers there's been candy in it the entire time, and they're like, "Aw."
Oh, see, we knew he was sweet on the inside.
And it's the end of an episode of Step by Step.
Yeah.
Freeze frame. Everybody freeze frames around like Arya eating candy. I
Or
like
Ned
this.
laughing for the first time.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. And he laughs for the first
Yeah,
time.
ruffling Arya's hair.
The Joffrey pinata taught Ned how to laugh.
After all.
This is a very special episode of Superfight, Johnny.
It is. Brought to it's the TGIF.
Brought to you by TJF.
Game of Thrones. And frankly, all of the problems have been solved by Joffrey being a pinata. Ned's alive. Tommen's in line for the throne.
Robert no longer wants Ned to be his hand because, it's awkward now. What are the optics on making the guy who pinata'd your son your hand?
Yep.
Mm-mm.
And Tywin does okay.
Yeah, this is really this is how everything should have been.
Yep.
I mean,
I don't know why he.
It's not a story with as much longevity, but
we finished it.
We did. It is finished, and there's something to be said for that. And with that, folks, I think that'll do it for this week.
Yeah, we'll be back with you next Monday.
Yeah, apologies for the delay. Johnny doesn't have a toilet, so.
Yeah. I'll tell you all about that one in an extended episode after the.
An extended episode. That's
joys of homeownership, folks.
That's for our Patreon patrons, folks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good night, Johnny. This has been a blast.
Yep.
We'll see you folks next week.
Adios.